Hello and welcome to another episode of the Adobe Creative Suite podcast. My name is Terry White, and in this episode we're going to take a look at how to get started with Adobe InDesign CS6. In other words, you're a beginner, you really haven't used InDesign very much, so in the next few minutes or so I'm going to hopefully walk you through how to get going. So let's jump right in. I have 10 things that people tend to ask me how to do. So I'm going to cover how to get started and also cover those 10 things. One of the first things people ask me how to do is, well, I'm laying out a book. Maybe it's a souvenir booklet, a magazine, a book, or some type of book. And of course, the first thing you're going to think is, well, oh, there's book right there, create new book. And that's a different kind of book. That is a book document that assembles multiple InDesign documents into a finished book. So that's really not where you start. You actually start with create a new document. So we're going to go ahead and create a new document. And again, covering the very first thing, we're going to do intent for print. We're going to do 8 total pages. You can add more later or delete if you don't know how many. Facing pages is important in doing a book because with a book, you have a left page and a right page, and they face each other. So in the book format, you have a left page that has a right margin or inside margin on the right-hand side, and a right page that has an inside margin on the left-hand side. So with facing pages off, my margins are left and right. With facing pages on, my margins are inside outside. So I'm going to unlock all 4 of them to group together. And I'm just going to increase the inside margin a little bit more so that it accommodates multiple pages going down into the fold so my information doesn't go down into the fold with it. Now, if you were doing a full bleed, you can go in and you can add a bleed setting here. My document won't require that, so we'll just click OK. So step 1 was how to create my book. The second thing that people tend to ask, and we'll just jump right in, how do I place my images? How do I get images into my new layout? Well, there's a couple of ways. There's lots of ways, actually. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a new frame. All of your images and all of your text are in frames. So you might as well go ahead and create a frame manually for your image. You can also create it automatically, which we'll see in a few minutes. So there's my frame. The next thing I want to do is get my image to bring into it. Now I'm running Adobe Bridge in the background. You can just click the Bridge button to open up Bridge. And since I'm running Bridge in the background, that means I also have access to Mini Bridge. So when I bring up the Mini Bridge panel, it will show me the folder I last left it on, and I can navigate to any of my Bridge favorites. I can navigate to any folder, search for things, find anything on my computer, and bring it in. So this first image that I want to use is actually one of my images from Denmark. I'll just drag it in, and as you can see, it brought it in at 100% size, which is too big for this frame. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of my fitting commands, fill frame proportionally. You can also get to them here under Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally, and that will scale the image down to fill the entire frame without leaving any white space. Now that was one way to do it. Let's talk about 2 more. So I'm going to grab this image from Egypt. I'm going to hold down my Command or Control key. We'll get the Paris image and we'll get the London cannons here. So let's go ahead and just drag all 3 of those in. And now that I've got the 3 images, I'm just going to go down here and drag out 1 frame to be the width of the margin area. Now, if I let go, I'm just going to get the 1 image. So before I let go, I'm going to hold down or press my right arrow key on my keyboard. 1, 2. Divide that frame into 3 frames. Now when I let go, it places all 3 images. And at this point, I can just quickly say, fit the frame to the content so that I don't have any white space left over, and I can pick them all up and move them around. Now those are 3 individual frames, so I would actually prefer to have this image on this side and this image on this side, so I can pick them up and move them around with my selection tool. So that was number 2, placing images. Number 3, let's talk about working with text frames. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my type tool, and we're just going to go ahead and drag out a frame. And since we're doing it with the type tool, it assumes that we want to put in type. I'm going to drag one out here as well. and drag one out here as well. And let's see. The first one is going to contain the words, the world of. And that will be for the world of travel. So we're going to highlight that text, which brings me to number 3, formatting your text with your text character options here. We're going to do a Myriad Pro, and we're going to do the light version of Myriad Pro. So we'll make that. Now, we can also increase the size. Just jump down here, we'll make it a little bit bigger. And since my text is as big as I need it to be, I don't need the frame to be that much bigger, so we'll do another fit frame to content to make that smaller. Let's go ahead now and put the word travel in. We'll highlight the word travel, and we'll just simply make that Aiken or Atchin Bowl. All right, so now I want that to be larger. I can, of course, keep jumping to larger sizes here in the point sizes, but once I hit 72, that's as large as the menu will go. I can type in a larger size, or I can do the next best thing, which is my favorite from the keyboard, holding down the Command key on the Mac, the Shift key, and the period, which is greater than. So Command Shift greater than, or PC Control Shift greater than. And now I've made it too big, so I'll go less than. And the next thing I want to do is hold down my Option key on the Mac or Alt key on Windows and use my left arrow key to kind of track those letters closer together. All right, so now we've got our word travel in, the world of travel. We can move that around using the selection tool. We can move the world of travel around and kind of put that where we want it to be, perhaps right inside there. And that looks pretty good. So now the next thing is we're going to go ahead and select this frame, and we're going to divide it into multiple columns. So we'll just use the column indicator here. We'll go ahead and say that we want that to be, I don't know, 3 columns seems kind of nice. Let's go ahead and select, put our text tool in there by double clicking. And now if I had the text, I could just go ahead and type it in. I could also use the file place command and go grab a Microsoft Word or a text document. But since I don't have the type yet, I'm just going to go ahead and type fill with placeholder text. And that will go ahead and just fill it in with sample text so I can start formatting. Now, speaking of formatting, let's go ahead and zoom in on it, or hit Command 2 to zoom in at 200%. And my type came in at my default font, which is Minion Pro Regular 12 point. I want that to be smaller, so I'm going to say Select All, Command A, 10-point type, and then I want this first one to be a drop cap. So for that, I'm going to go to my Paragraph panel, which you can grab from your Window menu, Window, Type, Paragraph. That's the one I brought up. And we're going to go ahead and say that we want that to be 1 character drop cap that's 3 lines long. All right, so now that we've got the text in there, we want to finish filling this up with sample text. And we'll just go ahead and do another fill with placeholder text command. But we don't want that to be on all those paragraphs, so we're just going to go ahead and select those and say that, there we go, it is down, back down to 0. All right, so now we'll do one more fill with placeholder text. And that should finish it off. Great. Okay, so now we've got our text in, but then I realized, hey, it'd be nice if we had a headline to go with that. So let's go ahead and say, drag out another text frame here. We can stretch that frame all the way across. And if I zoom out a little bit, I can see what I'm doing better. Grab the selection tool and we'll just pull that out. Okay, so now we'll double click once again to get to our cursor. The world is yours. Take advantage of it. All right, and I just want to go ahead and make that larger. Actually, let's change the font. We'll do Myriad Pro Bold, and we'll make that, let's say 14 points. Can we go larger? How about 18 points? Looks great. Okay, so now we've got, really in a matter of seconds, minutes maybe are beginnings of our page. And of course, we can continue to work on this. We can move this up. Move that up using my arrow keys here. And we can also move this up, make it a little bit more comfortable here for this. All right, great. Now, where are our other 7 pages? Remember, we asked for an 8-page document. Well, if we scroll down, there's the other pages. But before we move on, there's some formatting that I want to do here. And this is going to bring us into our next couple of things that people ask for. So number 5, creating styles. So we have this headline here, and this headline is kind of the way I want all my headlines to look, with one more exception. I'm going to want some color on that. So before I go any further, I want to borrow the green in these cannons and use that for my text color. And InDesign lets me do that. But before I do it, I want to make sure these images are in the right format. So when I select the image, go to my link panel, I can see, just as I suspected, since it came out of my digital camera, it's in the RGB color space. And therefore, for offset printing, I would want this in the CMYK color space. If you're doing a digital document, a PDF, digital publishing, web, RGB is fine. But if you're going to print via press or via color separations, you need CMYK. So I'm going to go ahead and Option or Alt double click on this image. That will open it up in Photoshop, where I can change the mode from RGB to CMYK. I can now save it. I can close it, switch back to InDesign, and InDesign will automatically update it. So when we look at it now, it's already CMYK. We've already made the change. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is just simply grab my eyedropper tool. We'll sample the green that's in here. And now we can paint with that green just by dragging it across the things that we want to be green. Perfect. Now there's a couple things we're going to want to do along the same lines. I may want to grab, let's grab our eyedropper one more time. I may want to grab like the kind of dark brown in there and maybe do that for the world. And the problem is, and this, you may get into this when you start overlapping things. It's selecting the travel frame and not the world of frame because it's behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down my Command key on Mac, Control key on Windows, and click. That will let me click through. And then I can do an arrange option to bring it to the front. There we go. So now the world of is in the front where I need it to be. So the next thing we'll do is we'll grab our eyedropper one more time, and we'll go ahead and sample that brown. And now we can undo whatever that was doing there, and we can go ahead and say, here we go. We've got our world of. Did I sample the wrong color? Let's see, I think I did. Let's try one more time. Sample. There we go. And again, we don't want a stroke, so we'll just go ahead and say no stroke on that text. Actually, we need to highlight it first. Sorry for the diversion, guys, but this is the kind of stuff you will run into, so let's make sure we do it right. All right, no stroke, just a fill of the brown. We're good to go. Okay, so now that we've done those things, I don't want to have to go through that ever again. I don't want to have to go through finding the right color and choosing the right font and choosing the right size and doing all this over and over and over again on every page. So this is where styles come in. So for example, I want this to always be my headlines. That kind of font, that kind of color. So I'll go to my paragraph styles panel, not the paragraph panel, but the paragraph styles, which you can get from Window, Styles, Paragraph versus Type in Tables, Paragraph. They're two different ones. And then we'll just say that we want a new style. We'll double click on it and we'll call this one Headline. So now we've got our new headline style. While we're at it, we're going to go ahead and select this as our body copy. And we'll just make a new style of that called body copy. And we'll click OK. So now we've got our body copy. We've got our Actually, I want to rename that one. That's going to be our first paragraph because it contains the drop cap. And the paragraphs that don't contain drop caps will be our body copy. So just putting my cursor there, double clicking, oops, undo. Putting my cursor there, making a new one. There we go. And double clicking on it, and we will call this one body copy. So now we've got body copy, we've got headline, we've got first paragraph, and those will all format properly. But we still want to make sure we can retain these colors that we made as well. So for this, we go to our swatches panel. We highlight anything that's the color we want. It will show that color there, and we can make a new swatch for it. So there's our green. Oops. Let's move this up out of the way for a second. There's our brown. And now we can move it back down. And we've got the colors we want. So by making swatches and making styles, you can use them over and over again. So for example, if I highlight this M and I want to use that exact same brown, I don't have to go sample it anymore because it's right here. I can just select it. And now that will be the exact brown that we had up above and the one that we got from the photo. So that's the point of making styles. So now let's talk about the next one, which is page numbers. People ask for this all the time. So for example, let's go ahead and zoom back out. We have all these pages, we want to number them. So rather than have to put the page number on it manually, or rather than have to do it on every single page, we will go to the Pages panel where we have our A master page as default. And our A master page is on each one of these pages. So we just double click on our A master. Whatever we put on the A master will appear on all the other pages. I want the page number in the lower left-hand corner. So I'm just going to make a text frame down there. When we zoom down into it, I'm not going to type a 1 or a 2 or a 3. Instead, I could type the word page if that's what I wanted before each number, but I just want the number. So we're going to go ahead and say that we want to go to type, insert, special character, marker, current page number. And there is a keyboard shortcut for that as well. But that will give you the current page number, which you can then style any way you want. Make it whatever font you want, make it whatever color you want, and that will style your page number. Now that will be on all my left pages, and I want one now on all my right pages. So rather than have to do that from scratch, I'm just going to hold down my Option or Alt key, which is duplicate inside of an Adobe product. So that was just drag and drop, holding down the Option or Alt key will duplicate it. Now we'll zoom into that one because it's left aligned. We want that one right aligned. So now it will be on the right hand side and the number will go that way if it gets larger and larger. Okay, so now we've got our page numbers on all our pages. So if we go to page 1, sure enough, at the bottom of page 1, there is page 1. If we go to page 2, sure enough, at the bottom of page 2, there's our 2, there's our 3, so forth and so on. This is great, except on page 1, we don't want a 1. We don't want to number the first page. So there's a quick way to do this. I can get rid of it. Let's click, oh wait, you just can't click on something that's on the master page and get rid of it. However, if you hold down your Command key on the Mac or Control key on Windows and the Shift, you can then click to unlock that item from the master page and just simply delete it. You've only deleted it off that one page. It still works on all the other pages. So page 2 is still page 2. Page 3 is still page 3. It still works. Okay, so now we've got, we're cooking along here. We've gotten through the first 6 items. Let's get through the last 4 now. So I'm going to go ahead and drag out a frame that's the size of this page. So let's go ahead and grab our text frame. Drag one out there. And I'm going to go ahead and make this one 2 columns. So we have to select it as an object. And now that it's 2 columns, I'm going to go ahead and fill it with placeholder text. So type, fill with placeholder text, fills it with the sample text once again. But I'm going to link this frame backwards to a headline frame. So let's make this frame a little shorter. And you have an import and an outport on all of your text frames. Now my outport went red, letting me know, hey, you made this frame too small. I can't see all your text anymore. That's okay. If I make the frame too small, we're going to see linking, which is the next object that people want to know how to do. But let's go ahead and click the import, and we can then link backwards over here. All right, so now we've got our text set up here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this frame that it created automatically for us, so we can go ahead and make ours manually. And let's go ahead now and take care of, it looks like it's just going to keep doing an auto insert. So here, we'll just break the link. There we go. So now let's go ahead and let's do our headline here. So we're going to say that this page has a headline in it, and it says, "Welcome to my world." And it has a headline, which means it has a headline style. So we'll just say that that's a headline. And all the rest of this text is, from here on out, is body copy. So that's how you do your formatting. You just highlight your text, choose your style sheet, and it will automatically format your text for you. Okay, so now let's move along. I want this to be in a frame all by itself, the welcome to my world. I could do this one of two ways. I can either make this frame too short, so it just pushes the text, or I can insert a break character after this that says, type insert break character frame break. So that means push everything after that word world to the next frame no matter what, even if the frame is big enough to hold it. So that's just a quick tip, by the way, in case you want to know how to do that. All right, so now what's the next thing that people want to know how to do besides linking frames, which we're going to get to in a moment? Let's finish filling this up with more text. Type, fill with placeholder text. Great. The next thing people want to know how to do is text wrap. So let's go ahead and go back to our images. Let's grab another image that we want to place in here. So we'll just drag this one in, but we're going to place it right on top of our text. Just drag it out. Now I want my text to wrap around that. If you're just doing a simple wrap, you have the ability to do it right from your control panel. You can just click, and that will do a text wrap around your image. And that will then, again, create another overset situation where it says, hey, you've got more text than will fit here. At that point, I can click that plus sign and continue placing my text on the next page, next part of the page, wherever I want to put it. Now at that point, that's a new frame, but it is linked to the previous frame. So if I make this frame shorter, it will push more text over to the other side. And how do I know they're linked? Go to your View menu, go to Extras, Show Text Threads, and that will show you a physical link between the two, of course, that does not print. Now on this one, I'm going to go ahead and make this 3 columns. And we can go ahead and balance that out a little bit, but actually let's go ahead and bring this all the way down, and we're going to go ahead and just fill it with more text. So let's do type, fill with placeholder text, just for the sake of example. And now we're going to do another kind of text wrap, but this is if the object is irregular. So let's go ahead and drag this one in, and we're going to go ahead and place our model on the left-hand side here, all the way down. Now, I cut the model out in Photoshop. That is on a transparent layer as a PSD file. And I now want to do a text wrap around it, which if I just simply use the simple text wraps, well, I don't get what I want. It's not wrapping around the object the way I want it to. And that is by design. InDesign just doesn't do that for you automatically. So what we're going to do is go to the text wrap panel, which you do have a text wrap panel under the window menu. And in the text wrap panel, I'm going to say, yes, make it an irregular wrap, but under the contour options, I'm going to say detect edges. This works for your vector logos and for anything with transparency in it. And that will detect the shape of the object and therefore wrap the text nicely around it. And you can go in and you can say, move the text further away so that you get it further away from the object if you choose to. All right, so we're cooking along here. We did our page numbers. We did number 7 and 8, text wrap, page numbers. And now we're going to wrap things up on the next page. We're going to create a frame here on the page over here on the right. And in that frame, we're going to zoom in so we can see what we're doing. We're going to place an Excel file. So when I choose File, Place, I can grab an Excel table. And that Excel table brings it in as tabular text. I can now just highlight that tabular text. I can go to Table, and I can say convert that text into a table. So there's a couple ways you can do tables. If you have the text coming in already, you can say convert it into a table. Or if you want to insert a manual table that you will then go cell by cell putting the information in, that would be insert table. But you do either one in the text frame. Now at this point, you can highlight by column. You can highlight by row, you can highlight the whole thing, and then you can begin formatting. So let's do Myriad Pro. I don't know, it's one of my favorite fonts. We can highlight these and make them bold. Let's go here. And of course, if I'm going to do this once, I don't want to have to do it over and over again. So we make a paragraph style, and we're just going to call this table heading, to where those are all bold. And now I can go, and I could have highlighted the whole thing, by the way. I could have done that and done table heading so that they're all bold. But you get the idea. You can either highlight individual text, you can highlight individual cells. If you need another row, just hit your tab key. That will give you another row. You can even merge cells together with a right click by highlighting them to create 2 cells out of these 4. So very cool things you can do with tables. Again, this is just a basics video, but just wanted to show you some of your options since people ask me that all the time. Now, last but not least, let's say you're ready to output this document. Well, obviously, you can go to File and Print. You can also export it as a PDF. It has PDF, InDesign has PDF abilities built right in. So I can say Travel. If I do that, I can either export it for high quality print, for smallest file size to maybe put it on my website or email it to someone, or press quality if someone is doing separations, meaning they're going to separate out the colors. So that's another way to output it. And last but not least, if I'm going to hand this off to another person to work on, then I would go File, Package. That will copy the InDesign document, all the linked graphics, all the fonts, everything necessary that I can hand this off to another InDesign CS6 user, and they can open it up and keep working. So that, in a nutshell, is how to get started with InDesign CS6. Lots more to cover, lots more to learn, but if you had never touched InDesign before, I know I went kind of fast, but it's a video. You can always watch it over and over again, pause it, do it yourself until you get it the way you want. So that's InDesign CS6 and how to get started. My name is Terry White. Thanks for watching.